And now we welcome into the studio our stock analyst, Sean Dempsey. Sean, what do you have for us this morning?
Good morning, Tegan. The stock market is an interesting thing. One week it can be in the green, and the next it can be in the red for absolutely no reason. This week I'm going to be highlighting two stocks and an index that have gone under the radar a bit. Those are Enphase Energy, Apple, and the Volatility Index. Let's start things off with the Volatility Index. Everyone knows that the stock market can be volatile at times, especially nowadays when there's little certainty about the trajectory of the economy. The Volatility Index, or VIX for short, gives investors a view of how stable the economy is or how much consumer confidence there is in the market. The higher the number on the index, the more fear there is in the market. Since COVID, the VIX has come down by a substantial amount and is now sitting at around the 19-point mark. With rate hike still on the horizon, we can see the VIX jump back up in the next 1 to 2 months towards where it was just a year ago. And as you can see for the VIX, this was the big jump during COVID, jumping up to 60, almost 80 points, and has since come down from that mark. But you can see in 2022, there's still been some back and forth battling because of the rate hikes that happened over the course of last year. Next up is Enphase Energy. The company develops, manufactures, and markets home energy solutions. Enphase's stock price finished up 5.7 this past week after reporting better than expected earnings. Now, what I really want to point out doesn't necessarily have to do with Enphase, but the renewable energy sector as a whole right now. In 2022, the energy sector was one of, if not the best performing sectors in a struggling economy. Enphase in particular rose 45% in 2022, but what goes up must come down. Year to date, Enphase Energy is down 15%, while the major indexes are performing much better. So why is this? Well, typically when tech stocks are getting beaten down, investors turn to energy and consumer discretionaries as a safer investment. And as you can see here on Enphase's stock chart, they've been doing sort of good over the past few months. According to investorplace.com, Enphase Energy deserves an A rating for the company's solar market leadership. And as you can see here, since the start of 2023, the stock is struggling to keep up its momentum from 2022. The stock peaked at $336 per share in December of 2022, and now it sits at around the $217 mark. But analysts have raised their price targets for Enphase because of their better than expected earnings, so a rally may be possible for the stock in the coming months. And finally, I want to highlight the tech giant Apple. The company has been one of, if not the safest investment over the past decade. But has the stock lost some steam recently? Apple has bounced 19% off its recent lows, but Apple's revenue has declined to the mid-teens. On top of that, Apple's demand in China and Europe has also slowed down by a large margin when compared to its sales in the United States. Yet, I don't think investors should be scared because consumers continue to buy iPhones and add to their Apple ecosystem every year. So even though that Apple's best days may be behind it, they still have the strongest customer loyalty in the tech sector. Not to mention, Apple has the best user experience in their space as well. Now, what I want to highlight is what I was talking about before, is that the stock is in the same place as it was in July of 2021. That's where the red light turned on for me. This company still has fantastic fundamentals, always has and always will, but as a strong growth company, I think its best days are behind it. In fact, CNBC's Joe Terranova said that Apple has lost its momentum when compared to its competitors and has since sold the majority of his shares in his ETF that he manages. Tegan, Bradley.
And now, Sean, a lot happening with Apple and AI right now. I mean, we already talked about AI a little bit, but, you know, Blix Inc., an app that they're not allowing to update. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think what's interesting with Apple is that they're kind of a little bit behind in the AI sector when compared to a lot of different companies. And that's something they're just going to have to work on going forward. I mean, competing with Meta and some of those other tech giants, Microsoft, like we're going to mention later in the show. And so Apple really needs to focus on that if they want their revenues to skyrocket once again.
Yeah, iPhone's still making up a vast majority of their sales, but their services, they've been heating those up in recent years, and AI, we know the other tech giants are rolling things out. We'll see if Apple competes.